Hello, Facebook. How's everybody doing this evening? This is Sean. You are now with the No Judgment Zone. I'm stepping on my words. It's been a long day. This is the No Judgment Zone with your host, Sean Taylor, discussing topics with no judgments. Again, discussing topics with no judgments. Our today's topic is about contributing negatively to the demise or discouragement of his or her behavior. Okay, so we got a good special guest of mine, a friend of mine, Miss Cheryl. She's on here. You'll be able to hear her lovely voice. And then I got my boy, my ace. We always doing this thing, Brandon Lampley. So
Yes, sir.
now that subject, that title, it's pretty, it's a pretty broad title. So, Cheryl, I'm gonna have you take the lead, and me and Brandon will chime in or piggyback as we go. So everybody, Cheryl, everybody, Cheryl.
Hi, everybody. All right. I think Shauna, you and I was speaking one time, one evening,
Right,
about when people break up or have issues or situations in their relationships, right? Right.
right. Hmm.
So, um, so we're talking about non-judgment, and in my field, I don't know if you did you share. Should I share what field?
Sure, of course, Cheryl.
I'm a outpatient mental health therapist. So all day long, I am trying to absorb as well as comfort and guide. By no means do we have answers, but we do have support and we give some direction, right?
Right,
So
right.
um, everyone has to do the work. And so in saying that, I have some guidelines that I follow when someone comes into therapy with me for the first time. And generally, one of them is to be honest, right? If you're not
Hmm.
being honest with me, obviously, I wouldn't know if you're not telling the truth or not, right? So
Right.
technically, just be honest with yourself and feel that this is a free zone. This is a safe zone. So I love your no judgment zone. My zone is a free zone, I call it. It's safe, right? You don't have to worry about
Awesome.
judgment. So I would like to ask you all, what is it does no judgment mean? What does
Mm.
judgment mean in itself?
Brandon, why don't you take that one?
Oh, here you go.
Yeah, man, put you
Well,
on the spot, bro.
no judgment. To me, um, which I would say it's very hard to achieve no judgment because I mean it's human nature to judge people. I mean you do it really without even thinking about it. You do it
Right,
subliminally. You judge somebody. So you see a guy on the street and he disheveled, looks dirty, and he comes up to you. You judge him right away. Like man, this dude look homeless. That's judgment right there.
Right.
But no judgment, having a place where people can express their feelings, um, where they feel that you won't judge them. I think it's important. Having that zone is important because when you judge people, it stops them from being themselves. They go into a shell and they hide who they really are because at the end of the day, like we're all human. Everybody crap stink. You got skeletons in that closet too. So
Absolutely.
don't judge people, when they talk about the things that they've been through. Because if we can get no judgment of around the world, we will solve a lot of problems because it's a lot of people
right.
going through things. And I said this on the last podcast. It's a lot of people going through things that are afraid to talk about it because of being judged. And people
Mhm.
are going through the same thing and they're suffering in
Absolutely.
silence.
Absolutely.
Right,
So
right.
I want to add a little piece to that. Sean, did you want to add to that?
Cheryl, I didn't know you was gonna go. You tricked me. You faked me out with that ball. I was
Monkey
like,
wrench.
whoa, yeah. So I'm like, and it's perfect because it ties into my mantra, which was something it took me years to get here. And so it took me years to get to a place to where I stopped judging myself, and then I stopped judging others. But and people know I speak on my mother all the time, and she's the person who was constantly breathing into me, Sean, no one has a right or a place in this world to judge anybody. And I know how it looks by us being in this society and us being in the world. The world, the world itself is so very condescending and hypocritical. So you need to step outside of that and realize, just like Brandon said, we all have problems. There's things we've all done that we may not be proud of. Some of our stuff is out in the open, and some people have their things in secret. And I spoke on it, I think, on yesterday's podcast, where people are actually taking their life because they're afraid to be their authentic self. And when you can't really be yourself, what person are you getting in any relationship? My mother's always taught me, Sean, in order for anything to work between a man and a woman, or any dynamics of families or friends, in order for things to work, you have to take judgments 100% completely out of it. If you do not, you will never get that real true person, because then they won't be able to be them, that you will never, they'll never, you'll never be able to view them naked. And I'm not saying in the physical sense, but I'm saying in the
Yeah.
psychological, emotional, the mental sense of things. So being non-judgmental, there is huge benefits, and it's a detriment to you when you are judgmental, because here's the thing: when that coin flips and that spotlight is on you, you're going to get a taste of what it's really like, opposed to when you go to being judge, jury, and executioner, and it's turned around on you. Now you can understand how it feels when it's done to other people. It is so, we've seen in just the spotlight, and I hate to use this brother as an example, but and I don't even want to really mention his name, but we already know, Brandon, you pretty much know who this guy is, but he talks so much about other people. He, he really said a lot of things about a lot of people, but then when his business got put out there and the spotlight was on him, he felt that fury, you know,
Mhm.
uh, basically men. So that's why this show.
Somebody called him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, Sean,
You
we
guys
can't hear
hear me?
you.
Okay.
Okay, now you good. You good now.
Okay, good, good, good. My son was calling, so I forgot to text him and let him know I'm gonna have to talk to him later. So when that spotlight got turned on that brother, now he had to feel the wrath of what he was dishing out. It's very, you have to be very strategic into, I like talking about myself. I like people to know that I'm perfectly imperfect. I like sharing my experiences, not others' experiences, but mine, my mess up, my mistakes. It's when you are transparent about your mess, people are more adapt to really listening to you. They see that, okay, this person is not perfect. They're not walking with their nose in the air. They're not they're not they're not acting like or pretending to be something that they're not. And I did that for years. I lied for years. I pretended for years to appease people because I was afraid to be who I was. I was afraid for acceptance, afraid to, oh, she's going to leave me or they don't want to be my friend. So I made up this fake person, you know, pretty much was living a couple of different lives, so to speak. And so I tell people that, but the years and the hard work to hide and to try to pretend to be this, and when you were total the opposite of that, it takes such a mental toll on you, and it's so much work in being somebody else, and it's no work in just truly being yourself. And if people can't accept you for who you are or where you are in life, then they're not meant to be in your life in no capacity. Because if I'm good enough for the big man upstairs to forgive me for all my mess, who am I to look down on somebody else when I know I got mess in my closet, but the only difference between us two, mine is in the closet and theirs is out in the open, you know? So I'll let you guys take it from here. Yeah.
Okay, so I wanted to add to that. So the
Right, right.
reason we bring up judgment is because a lot of times we don't think, not only do we judge others, we judge ourselves.
Right.
And when we have self judgment, so I don't allow that in any of my therapy sessions. You are not allowed to self defecate, self abuse, self attack, self annihilate,
Right.
because you have to have an avenue, a forum where you can scream and cuss and turn upside down and be wrong and be right and all of these things, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Because outside, you're going to have the attacks, you're going to have all of these other things. So, this is the 1 hour, the one moment when you can be safe. You don't have to be stupid because you say something that people may tell you is stupid. You don't have to be a dummy because you're not as smart as the next person. So, when you've heard these things most of your lives, some of your lives, all of your life, then you tend to adapt it into your repertoire, into your persona. And a lot of it, most of the time, it's untrue. So, not only no judgment of others, no judgment of self. Sometimes I heard you mention, Sean, about being transparent.
Hmm.
Sometimes we have to understand who we are in order to know what we are, what we can show. So if you
Right.
haven't been allowed to learn yourself,
Mm.
hence, sometimes that's when we get into these mental health difficulties, because we have people that have been abused all of their life, most of their life, some of their life. We have all sorts of trauma, from watching accidents to hurting someone to, being abused in any form or fashion. So we have all of these traumas, all of these things people are experiencing. And of course, we have these other things, not being able to focus. You have anxiousness and all of these things that are happening because of our life experiences. So, how do we go through that? We bring all of this stuff into our relationships, into every one of our
Right.
relationships, whether it be with a coworker, a family, a friend, whether it's a romantic relationship or monogamous relationship, into your family relationships. All of these things, everything that you experience individually, we bring into our relationships. So, how do we accept what's going on without pointing a finger? So, we know what our intent is, right? So they sometimes are, or usually people say actions. What is the end of that? Actions does what? Speaks.
Speaks louder than words.
Okay. What does that mean? What does that mean to you, Mr. Brandon?
Action speaks louder than words. I mean, hey, that means what you do is more important than what you say. You know, you can say I love you all day long, but do you show me? Do
Right.
you show me in your daily activity? Do you show me in how you move? You know, you can say it all day. Um, and and especially with action, you have to, I would say, be consistent. Basically, like there's one that you'll have those times where somebody will complain about how you are and what you're doing, and what people do. They straighten up, they put on the act, they put on the representative, but it only lasts for so long before they go back to who they really are.
Hmm.
And
Right.
that's where the action comes in as well. Not only doing what you say you're doing, but being consistent at doing whatever that thing is.
As well. Sean, you have something to add to that?
Uh, actions really, they pretty much show us who that person really is.
Yeah.
Um, uh, you know, my just keeping your word. My mom used to say this thing all the time. It used to really irritate me when I was a teenager. She was like, as a black man, your word is your bond. That's all you got.
Hmm.
If you say you're gonna do something, Sean, you need to do it. And there's a lot of times I haven't keep my word. There's a lot of times my action was contrary to what I said. And those things, you have to work on those things daily. And what I'm learning, because I see a therapist twice a week, and I'm not ashamed of it. I remember when I first started seeing a therapist, I was kind of worried about what people were gonna think. Oh, he's crazy, da da da. But when my therapist suggested that I need to start sharing my story and my journey, I was like, I'm not ready to do that. I'm private.
Hmm.
She was like, Sean, I want you to think of it from the male perspective. She said, you guys, and the way she broke it down, I never heard a woman break this down for me before. She said, you guys don't have a platform. You have nobody that cares for you. Everybody's
Right.
pulling at you. You got to be Superman, Batman, Robin, Iron Man, Incredible Hulk, Black Panther. You got to be Captain America. You got to be all these superheroes, and you have no superhero for you. You have to go through your whole day, 14 hours, and no one, when you walk through the door, no one comes and asks you, hey, how is your mind doing? How
Hmm.
is not how is your day doing, but what's going on in your head? How are you doing? How are you feeling? And you need to let men know that it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to, hey, not always have the answers. It's okay to be perfectly imperfect. And Sean, you're not doing this for them. You're doing this for you. You're doing it for the men who don't have a voice. You need to be that voice. And when I told her I was doing this podcast, she was just like, Sean, this is amazing. You're doing something that I've never seen before. I don't see no judgments nowhere in society, on podcasts. You see people tearing people apart. You see people acting like they're the perfect relationship expert and gurus,
Yeah.
but you don't see people saying, hey, I got a place that you can come and you can be yourself. There is no judgments. And I created a group. This podcast is remembrance of my mother and a platform for men, but it's also for women to be heard too, because women have a voice and women are amazing. They have amazing instinct, intuition, all different types of things. When you have the right woman, when you get the taste of the right woman, you don't want to have no taste of nothing else. But you have to have the right one to see your value and see your worth and appreciate your vulnerability, where you can be your real self and there's no judgments. But my private group, Cheryl, for imperfect, non-judgmental people, I created, so these are places that people can come and just be themselves. And Cheryl, me and you have talked on several occasions how, and that's why I wanted you on this podcast, because the stuff that you told me the other day, I was just like, I was mind blown. I was like, sure, you got to be on the show. You got to be on the show, because you broke it down. You was like, Sean, but from the mental, that's where it starts.
Mhm.
And Cheryl, I want you to, if you could, kind of expound on that a little bit,
Oh,
as far as, so we can dive
I
a little
wanted
bit
to
deeper in the
piggyback.
mental part. Oh,
I
go ahead,
wanted to
Brandon.
piggyback off
Yeah,
what you
go ahead.
said a little
Go ahead,
bit.
brother.
So
Yeah.
the male space thing, I was having a conversation at work, as I usually do, talking to coworkers, and we was talking about. I was telling them about male spaces, and it started with just like movies and them replacing male or predominantly male leads with women.
Right.
And I said one of the problems with that is male erasure. When you invade a male space, because this is what women do usually. They invade a male space, and instead of enjoying the male space for what it is, they say, there's no inclusion here. There's no representation of us in here. We're not comfortable here. You need to change it. So what happens? They change the space to suit women. Once you change the space to suit women, men are no longer interested in the space. Men then leave the space. And then guess what women do after men leave the space? They leave it
Leave
too.
too. Mhm.
So now you've destroyed a male space for nothing.
Mm, mm,
And I was telling coworkers about that, and they were like, "Oh, this is all right." I said, "Dude, no." I said, "If you want to make things for women, make their own lane. Don't take something that was predominantly male and then try to change it and look. So let's make this female, this empowering. No, make your own lane. 007 shouldn't be a woman. Give her her own movie. Make her a spy. Something. Give her her own story. No,
right.
it's happening in too many things, And we was talking about that, and also one of the issues with men is that, and I heard a guy say it. He said that one of the issues with men is that men don't really empathize with men, and so like women are different. When women see another woman in a situation, she says, "Man, I see myself in her. That could be me. So she's on board to help whatever situation that is, get it changed and get it turned around, right? Go to the male side. Something happens to a man. What do men say? Oh man, sorry that happened to him, but that'll never happen to me. That's our attitude. That's why women can go when they need something done. It's like this. They get it done. Men, we're so spread out, and it's a lot of factors going into why it's like that. But bringing more male spaces, you telling your story, and men being able to identify with it. That's where the no judgment comes in. Is that when you were able to tell it with no judgment, people feel comfortable, and now we can hash it out and get this stuff out on the table.
That's
Cheryl,
excellent.
what do you think? Cheryl, what do you think about that? What Brandon said.
Brandon said, I think it's as accurate as he feels it. I think it's valid. Everyone has to have a forum, a platform to be able to speak. And I think sometimes when we invade each other's platform, right? So let's take for instance, there is a platform of people that have autism, right? So that's a very intricate mental disability, right? And if someone that has cancer per se goes and visits the autism platform and wants to now start speaking about cancer, what does that do to autism? Can you hear autism anymore? Or now you're trying to be polite and accommodate the platform for cancer. That's why. And so what I'm saying is Brandon is accurate in his expression of that. Sometimes we have to learn to stay in our lane, and then that's when the combat happens, because everyone becomes offended. So I want to kind of turn it back around to when we're talking about your topic. Say your topic again for me one time.
Contributing negatively to the demise or discouragement of his or her behavior.
Okay, so let's talk about that in relation to in perspective to relationships. So let's say, and I'm gonna paint a scenario. So we have a guy and a girl. It could be any two people that are in a relationship, in a romantic relationship. Let me call that, because most people can relate to that.
Right.
And for whatever, all the reasons that it breaks up. So tell me some keywords or some things that cause a relationship to break up, because it doesn't necessarily matter the exact reason. They all amount to the same reasons. So you all shoot out some words of some reasons why relationships break up.
Money.
Well,
Money.
and I'm gonna share out two of mine that I just had huge problems. Lying and cheating.
Lying, cheating,
Cheating.
Communication.
finances, right?
Communication.
Yes,
Yeah.
poor communication. How about, can I throw out some? How about fear?
Fear.
Fear,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
How
Fear of
about,
missing out is big too.
yes, exactly.
Right.
How about lack of or minimal affection?
All right. That's a good one, Cheryl.
Okay.
That's a good one.
Also, the inability to be able to express oneself. Right? Sometimes we don't
Yeah.
have the words. We're not sure how to say what we need to say. So when we
Right.
don't know the words, then we have actions or reactions, which are generally don't match what we feel, right?
Right.
There's generally a
Right.
protective barrier that we set up. So if I am hurt, and instead of saying, "Hey, Sean, Brandon, can we have a chat?" Y'all forgive me because I have to use my words. But I know you all don't say chat, okay? But I say chat.
You
Um,
want to tell people where you from, Cheryl?
I'm from Trinidad, the beautiful island of Trinidad and Tobago. All right, so you must go one time when COVID is minimal and you could appreciate the country and all and so on.
Right. Right.
So if you if you can experience sitting and having a chat with your significant other to express, all right, Sean, you said some things the other day, and it really hurt to my core. Now, maybe I didn't tell you in the past, but when you always say, oh, girl, or however it is you call girl, I had an experience coming up or growing up where this really not nice man assaulted me, and he would always call me Gil. And from that time, I see that name there. I don't like it. Now, instead of me telling you that, every time you
Mm,
call me that, you don't know the backstory, so
right,
I'm offended,
Yeah.
and I start
right,
lashing back out. And you don't know. I mean, it's no big deal. What's the big deal? Just don't call me that because I said so, right? So here we
Hmm.
are
right,
already starting off. The communication is poor, right? So
Yeah.
it's
right.
not necessarily Sean's fault because he thinks it lightly, or the other person's fault because she hasn't really expressed. It can't just be, I said so, unless you all have determined in a relationship where once I say something, it must stop. So the demise of it all is when a relationship breaks for some of the reasons that we just said, and of course it's extensive, the amount of reasons it could be. When a relationship breaks up, how many of us, self included, stop to think, how have I contributed to demise and the breakup of this relationship? What was my contribution to it not making it?
Wow.
Not what did the person do, because you could point, we have 100 reasons why
Yeah.
what she did and what he did, right?
Yeah.
We
Right,
could,
Hmm.
if I said to write a list, the pen, listen, we don't have enough paper, right? We writing.
right,
He did this,
Hmm.
he ain't listen, he ain't bring me no
right.
flowers, he ain't ask me how I'm doing, but at the time he went out with his friends and so on, and we go on. But then we stop to think that, did I do anything? I mean, was he just doing this and I sat there and took it? Now, let's say you didn't do much. Say you tried to get to the person and you say, listen, don't go out today, honey. No, don't do this and that and the other. And it still keep happening. You still contributed to his bad behavior, because if you are allowing this, meaning not like he's your child and you're saying don't do and don't go. I'm saying is you all are adults and you both are contributing to the success of the relationship. Well, if you don't put your positive contribution to it and you allow his negative contribution, then you are yet contributing your negative contribution by allowing the bad behavior to continue. So if you say to
Mm,
him, listen to me, you continue to go out and you don't want to spend any time with me, then this relationship can't go on because I need your time. Understand? You have mine, I am here. Where you going if I'm here? If that's not what you want. So you have to be responsible for each of us have to be responsible for the success and or failure of the relationship. I don't like the word failure so much,
mm,
but demise,
right.
the
Mm,
downfall of it all. So how willing and how much have we sat back in the relationships, even in your relationship, Sean or Mr. Brandon? How much, or have you ever stopped to take a look at, wow, I wonder what I did. What was my contribution to the unsuccessfulness of that relationship? Have you ever
mm.
stopped to think of that?
Yes.
You, yeah. Yes
Hmm.
and no. If I'm being honest with Sean, it's yes and no. And Cheryl, that is, God, you just killed it right there. That's amazing. It's amazing breakdown. We don't, as people, think about the contributing factors that we cause because we're so busy pointing out what they did wrong.
Mm-hmm,
Hmm.
And we never do a self examination
mm-hmm.
on anything we did wrong or what we could have done better. When that person is caught with their pants down and their hands in the cookie jar, they're at fault. Okay, they're wrong. They lied, they cheated. Okay, yes, that is self-evident. But we never think, okay, we didn't do what they did, but we never think throughout the process of that relationship, what do we do to contribute? And if people are being honest, and please, people out there, comment, say something, share your experience with us, because I know for a fact, I've heard just in just being in the fitness business for over 20 some years, I've heard all kinds of reasons
Of
and why
course.
people got divorces and breakups. But you know what I've never heard, Cheryl? I've never heard them say,
I
maybe I could have done something better.
abs-
They
absolutely.
never, they took. no accountability or responsibility, because we get caught up in what the person did and in our feelings about the situation
Hmm.
based off our emotions. We never think, what did I do? How did I control? I had to do something. Was I perfect in this whole relationship or this whole marriage?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We never put the spotlight back on us, And Cheryl, I remember me and you having a conversation. It's like, this thing could be there could be a resolution. There could be some sense of resolve. It can be rectified.
Absolutely.
But when we're so engulfed in our feelings and so engulfed in our hurt and pain, we throw in the towel and we walk away. It's like my mom always said, Sean, your whole generation, y'all have no fight in y'all.
Hmm.
Y'all quit and y'all
Right.
give up at the drop of a hat. And then she said, Sean, the ridiculous things I hear from young women? I said, yes, ma'am, what is it? And these are talks I had with my mom about 5 years ago. She said, they'll be like, oh, well, he did this and he did. Well, baby, how long you been with him? Well, I've been with him for 5 years. I'm like, well, he was like, but her response, she's like, well, baby, I thought you was gonna
Yes.
tell me you've been with him 20 years. 25 years. You're talking like you've been with this dude in double-digit years. Baby, you haven't even scratched the surface of how deep and the time you invest in the person. Y'all invest 2 years with a person. Y'all think y'all invested 20 years.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, baby, you got to. My mom used to say, Sean, I tell these young ladies, you got to go through it. If you fully invest it, you need to fight for it. And if you don't fight for it, it's not that important to you. But the way our world is, they just dust themselves off and just go to the next person, not realizing that everybody has baggage, whether they told you or not, whether you see it or not. We all have it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now people are gonna fool you and let you think that they got this life stuff figured out. I'm like, nah, no, you don't, because uh, I don't know. In my opinion, the one person who has the life stuff figured out, that's the person that sits high and looks low, because he created this. He created this.
Right.
We still in school.
Right. Right.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
definitely still in school.
And the
Yeah.
thing is, I think we have to continue to remember that we're growing and we're learning all the time. So it's very important to take some time for self care and self awareness. And
Yeah.
self care, you have to understand what that means for each of you.
Right.
Brandon, what is your typical weekly self care routine?
Self care. Um,
Mm-hmm. Dig
I
deep.
don't know if I have a necessarily a self care routine throughout the week. I'll do things randomly, for self care. Mental health day, as I call it. I'm like, I want to go to work today, so I got time on the books, and I'll do that. Or I want to treat myself to something. But the main thing that has really, really helped me is being alone. Being alone, I talk about it all the time. Say if you haven't done it, you need to do it. And you don't have to do it for a long period of time. But being alone has helped me tremendously because being alone makes you self-reflect. You can't escape your thoughts when you're alone. You have nothing to distract yourself with unless, drugs, alcohol, whatever, or whatever you're doing. But usually when you're alone and you don't have another person to distract you, you self-reflect. So like after every relationship I pretty much had, I was alone for a while and I always self-reflected and I thought about why did it end? How did I contribute? And what can I do to be better going forward? I've always done that, but most people are not going to do that because most people don't want to be alone.
Okay.
All right.
Sean,
All right.
what do you do on a weekly basis for self care?
Um, I do a lot of meditation. Um, and actually, and I do little things. My mother told me, before she passed, she's like, you
Oh, we can hear you.
Yeah, he'll come back in.
Oh, okay, eventually.
Yeah. Yeah, it does that.
It's taking a long time this
Okay.
time. Taking a
Yeah.
long, or it's spinning.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-mm. He's still
Mm-mm.
talking.
Still can't hear you. Mm-mm. Now,
Oh my
now, I
God.
got you now. Yeah, yeah. You good now? You good now?
That one took a long time.
Yeah, that one did take a long time. So I'm sorry about that. When someone calls, it just knocks you out. So it's like, anyway, my mom told me, she's like, I want you to do the things that you want to do. I was like, wait,
Mhm.
and I was like, Mom, that sounds kind of selfish. She's like, no, it's not selfish. She said, Sean, it's self-care. You got to think about yourself. And then I do spend days on purpose alone,
Yeah.
which is something my therapist said. And I was just like, mm. She was like, Sean, I'm just saying, it, it's good to get in tune with yourself
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
on a daily basis. What she said,
Mhm.
Sean, it could be 30 minutes of alone time. It could be an hour or
Absolutely.
two of alone time. But
Absolutely.
when you get more in tune with yourself, she broke down to me that you become more mentally sound.
Mhm.
And a lot of people aren't mentally sound, Cheryl. They really don't know their purpose. They really, they really don't know who they are because they're so busy and so fixated trying to please everybody else for show. And everybody is scared to show their true identity. And I didn't know, how do you do that? Through
Mhm.
therapy, I learned how to do that.
Right.
And once my mother passed, that's when I began to slowly have my own self journey, and I cut people off on purpose. I started changing on purpose because I'm like, I got to get myself together in order for me to be good for anybody else. If Sean's not together mentally, I'm not going to be good for no one else. I need to get my head together. I really need to concentrate. I really need to focus on that. The things that I was chasing and I thought that was important, when my mom passed, it showed me that, Sean, there's more to life than constantly chasing business, constantly chasing money, or uh, chasing women, or whatever the case may be. Whatever you're focus on things that's going to add value to my life, not subtract value away from my life. So I had to mentally start to change my thought process, Cheryl. I'm in a much better place than I was in December of 2018.
Right.
But the journey don't stop. It's a daily routine of things, and that self-care, spending that alone time, for me, it's very therapeutic
Mm-hmm. It
to
is.
do things on my own, go to the movies by myself, take myself to a restaurant by myself, and be 100% comfortable with that. Not worrying about, well, oh, wait, what, because people, they judge you. When you sit in the movies by yourself, well, man, why are they sitting in the movies by themselves? Why are they eating alone? What is it? Some type of loser? No, dude. I'm trying to get in tune with me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you're comfortable in your own skin, you know who you are, and a lot of people aren't comfortable with that. You
Yeah.
know.
One of the things too, being alone, one of the things you find out is you, like you say, you get in tune with yourself. You find out things that you can do that you never knew that you could do. I discovered talents that I have being alone because just going through the processes of with podcasting, you know, going into sports, talking sports the way I do, entertainment, movies, all that stuff.
Hey, Brandon, I can't hear you.
You can't hear me at all.
I can hear him.
You can hear him?
I can hear him. Fine. Yeah. Clearly.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah, you
Can
still
you
can't
hear
hear me.
me, Sean? Sean,
Okay.
you can hear me?
Can you hear me
Yeah.
now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Okay.
Okay.
That
Yeah,
Okay.
was weird.
the sound went in and went out. I heard it. I heard it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I discovered things about myself I didn't know, things that I could do that I didn't know, but it was because I'm in here by myself, and one thing I do, and I'll tell anybody this: if you want to get into this, with this podcasting, whether you're going to do music, you want to do movie, entertainment, whatever. One of the things that's going to help you tremendously, you have to talk to yourself. You have to monologue. Monologuing helps you with this because it kills the dead space where you have to think of things. That like going off
Right.
the top of the dome, everybody can't do that. But if you monologue to yourself, it helps you. It helps you tremendously. A lot of
Yeah,
people
I
don't
do.
know that.
I do that all the time in the car driving in the
Mm-hmm.
morning. I do it all the time. But people do ask, well, Sean, do you? People ask all the time. You don't never write anything down. I was like, no, man. I just
No,
But and people look at that as like it's a like man, that's a gift. It's almost like a
that's what I'm about to
rapper
say.
rapping a whole rap song and they have not wrote down one word.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But when you constantly are in practice of like even if I'm not saying in my mind my mouth, I will say it in my mind throughout the day, and
Mm-hmm.
all the time, but that forces me not to write anything down because I just want to come from a place of authenticity. I don't want to come to where I sound robotic and scripted. And you're right about that, Brandon. But Cheryl, a lot of people can't do things alone. They're not
Right.
they can do it, but in their mind it's like that certain section in their mind is cut off like no I can't go eat alone, I can't go to the movies alone, I can't do anything alone, I have to have somebody with me
So this is
24/7.
this is actually when we come into play to help. So one of the things in all of my clients that I have, and the reason why I asked about how much time you spend weekly, and I didn't say daily intentionally because most people do not do it even on a weekly basis, self-care. Generally,
Right.
self-care usually comes, as Brandon mentioned, after a serious situation happens, you need some downtime. After you've worked so much that you just like, I'm taking a mental health day. But what if we trained ourselves? Because it's a training. Everything that we know now, it's learned behavior. Of course, when we have baby, do we know anything? We know to eat, sleep, and poop,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
So
Hmm.
everything else thereafter, you have learned it. You've been taught, right? So we have to teach ourselves.
Right.
It's a training, it's a process. But you have to know what the process is or what it is what is your destination. And of course, when you get to one destination, you create another one and you move on, right? So
Right.
this part of self-care should be part of a daily process. So that way things don't become so burdensome and so overwhelming that we have to take a mental health day, or if we do not take the mental health day, we the mental health day takes it for us, meaning you have a breakdown, you have an episode, you have an outburst, something negative
Mm-hmm.
happens that forces you to take this time out, so to speak,
The
right?
the dam
Right.
breaks.
Absolutely. So
Right.
what
Mm-hmm.
about if we incorporate some kind of self care, even if it's 15 minutes? So I have all of my clients begin a schedule of setting aside some time. So first we pursue what it is they enjoy to do. If it's nothing out there, if all of their things that they enjoy to do happens to be outside of the home, we think of some things that I throw things some out there to give them an idea of things that they could like inside the home, because sometimes people feel like if they can't go out of the home, there's nothing for them to do. They're absolutely bored. They don't know what to do. So they stay in and they're sad, they're depressed, they are grieving, they're unmotivated. All of that happens, right?
Mm.
So we have to think
Right.
about all the things that we like, we care about, or something that might spark your interest. So somebody says, "Well, I'm not a reader. I don't want to write. I don't like much TV. What am I going to do inside?" Right? So if somebody
Right.
say that they like to exercise, I'm saying, "So who say you can exercise inside?" Okay, well, I don't have any weights. Well, we can use anything as a weight. We could use a water bottle. You know what I'm saying? So we're presenting ideas
Right.
and different things to each other so that we know how to start to begin to have this self care. So, self care doesn't always have to be a quiet moment. Self care can be, I crochet. That's one of the things I do. It's busying, but I know what I'm doing. So, it's just me getting to the end result, like seeing my scarf, my hat, whatever it is, baby blanket, trying to get to that end of that is exciting to me. So I am moving quickly, you see? So
Right.
busy work helps me, those kind of things. But it's not, I can sit down on the couch and do it. I could watch a movie while I'm doing it, these kind of things. So we have to find out what moves us. So it's
Mm-hmm.
important to
Yeah.
incorporate self-care, and in self-care comes self-awareness. Because while we're sometimes sitting and thinking and meditating or going through whatever it is, even the self-talk, people that can't self-talk, I encourage the journal. Because there is, and I know you don't mean this by that, but it could potentially sound like it, that authenticity only comes off the cuff. Sometimes
Right.
people's minds don't think as fast. You happen to have a sharp,
Right.
speedy mind there, sir. So you speak quickly off the cuff, and it makes sense, and it's
Right.
motivating, and it's strong, and it's powerful. But I
Mm-hmm.
know you've read some spoken word and some poems by Maya Angelou and all these people. Look how powerful when you read those words. They were written, right?
Hmm.
Had they not
Mm-hmm.
been written, we wouldn't have them to reflect back on, right?
Right.
And
Right.
she
Right.
might have, when she created it, kind of came off the cuff. She might have just spurted them out, and she decided to put
Mm.
them on paper for us, right? So
Right. Right.
when we don't have something to reflect back on, sometimes I have to look at something, some bullet points. I don't have a script, of course. I have 30 clients. There's no script. So if they come at me with something, I have to be prepared in every angle to respond in a comforting,
Right.
understanding, empathetic,
Hmm.
sympathetic, caring, positive way, period. It doesn't matter how I feel for the day, doesn't matter what I'm thinking for the day. It's about them and them only. Now, in order to do that, I have to do some things. Well, I don't have to do much things because that part comes a little naturally for me. But when I'm not feeling good, then I have to do something, right? So if I'm
Right.
not feeling well, meaning something is going on in my life, um, then I have to get up, do a routine that I have, so, which incorporates prayer and stretching, that kind of thing. Sometimes I might have to take a brief walk. Now, if it's raining outside, I'm walking in the living room around the centerpiece table. I don't care if I have to do it 10 times. I have a routine that I've set up to prepare myself for days when I don't feel 100% for my clients, because they deserve 100% of me at all times, period. There's no if, ands, or buts about it. I don't get up and say, you know what, I ain't feeling too good today. So, John, who has a child with ADHD and he has behavior issues, well, listen, John on his own today because you see, I'm not feeling too good, right?
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what if we took that mentality and that understanding into our everyday relationships? Like our
Mm.
relationships deserve the 100 of us, whether we feel bad or not. You think there's a capacity to do that beyond
Mm.
the scope of my work?
Yep.
Wow.
What do y'all think?
Ooh. That's a good one, Sean.
I, I see
You
Brandon
you
left. Brandon left on that one.
Oh no,
Brandon was like, I'm out.
Brandon.
I'm all no, I'm always here.
Okay, Brandon.
Yeah,
Okay,
never
so
scared.
Oh
Never
what do you
man.
scared.
think? What do you think about that? The capacity to give someone your 100. I'm not saying that I'm not saying it to be perfect, but to have that kind of thinking more times than not, whether it's on your
Yeah.
Mm.
job or not, because we don't do that for one another. We will do that for our job. We go to work,
Right.
right? We go to our boss, and they have expectations of you. You have to do your job to
Gotta do
the
your job. Yeah.
utmost. And don't you find, or do you find that when we at work we giving our all, when we come home we doing 50% below 50%?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hmm. We don't
Hmm.
extend. We
Absolutely.
don't extend ourselves for our boss. We don't extend ourselves for our relationships as we do for our supervisor.
No.
And
Yeah.
why is that? Because I have some answers, but you all tell me, why do we extend ourselves for our managers, our supervisors, the company, and we don't extend ourselves for our friends, our co-workers, our loved ones, family
Well,
members?
Because
Why don't we extend?
yeah, I've said this for a long time. I
Hmm.
said that relationships would be a lot better if people treated it like your job,
Anyway.
because at a job you get graded off your performance. You don't perform well, you get strikes, you get discipline or whatever, pay cuts, whatever. But with your relationship or family, that doesn't happen. You're not being graded on the scale. You're not being graded. So and there you're not afraid, you're not in jeopardy of losing your income or losing your livelihood. So for a job, like you say, it's easy to do. I go to work all the time. I don't want to talk to not a single person, but my job, part of my job is customer service. I have to talk to people, so I have to leave whatever I got going on. I got to leave it at the door and pick it up on the way back out. Um but for you to not extend that to family, I think you're doing a disservice to yourself and to them, because they deserve that too. They deserve that. Those day, yeah, you're not feeling this day, but still being kind, still being courteous, still being pleasant, still being understanding, even when you don't want to be. You know, you're doing them a disservice. You are. So
Sean?
Wow. Uh, I feel the same way Brandon does. When I was married, you know, uh, you know, y- you go throughout your whole day. One of the excuses we have is the first thing we say, "I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I've been talking to people all day. I don't want to talk to nobody. I need time to decompress. Let me get a drink. Let me put my feet up." You know what I'm saying? So it's like, as I'm speaking from the male perspective. It's like for me as a man, I feel as if my experiences have been. I'm like, I kind of want to come home and you know not being selfish or anything like that, but I want to come home and someone ask me how, like I said earlier, how's my head doing? I've worked like 15 hours, and it's like, as soon as I walk in the door, you're bombarded with this. You can't, let's say you're married with kids, you can't ignore them.
mhm.
You got little ones going around. You got to be this to them. And your woman, she wants to tell you about her day. She's not even asking you about your day. She don't even know what's going on in your head. So those things happen to where you kind of feel as if you have no outlet. You have no uh, person to where you can actually take off all that weight and just pretty much vent to. And they actively listen to you, not surface listen, but they really engage and listen to you.
Mhm.
I learned something. It was a professor who was talking about how you know when you're talking if that person is actually listening to you. You're having a conversation and you're telling this person about your day, and the gesture of just leaning in to really look you in the eyes and really engage with you, opposed to looking around. And you can kind of tell if a person is listening or if they're not listening based off the gestures of engagement in the conversation. Just body language and body movement. I know when someone's
Not being
engaging
on
in what
this.
I'm saying.
Again,
Yeah,
yes,
that
yes, 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 yes.
yeah. I
Mhm.
know when someone is truly listening to me, and I know when someone is not listening to me. It's a certain body language, it's certain movement. And if they're not leaning in, or even the face of concern, you can see that they are engaged in everything that you're trying to deliver to them. But as far as that, for me, I have been in the past very guilty of that, Cheryl.
Right.
And I acknowledge it. Is it something
Mhm.
that I need to work on in future reference? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I have to work on uh, putting that same effort in my business, in my family, my loved ones. You have to do that, because what I saw, Cheryl, and it's funny that you brought that up, is death really changes you. Death for me has changed my whole perspective on especially the people you have in your life. that you got to make them feel as if they're important. You got to show them how much you love them when they're living, because no one is actually promised tomorrow. So um, to experience three close deaths in a year, if it doesn't change your perspective, there's no hope for you. So you have to let people know, hey, listen, man, I love you. Maybe I can't be there right now, but I love you. I am thinking about you. Um, how you doing? And that's something you have to work on a daily basis, because sometimes the day does get away from us, but we still can't use that as an excuse, especially myself, because sometimes I'll have friends call me, hey man, well, want to hang out, man. I'm tired. And I'm literally not lying. I'm like totally exhausted. I'm
Yeah.
on fumes when it comes about 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. I'm literally on fumes from being up 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. That's a long day. So, but you got to find ways to work on that and to be better, to show the people that we truly care about that they're just important as that business or that job that we go on every day from 9 to 5. Sure, I got a question for you.
Certainly.
So, and I mentioned it earlier, you're a woman. That's why it's so important for me I want to hear what women think, because I can make posts, and I'm trying to get women to speak. Um, but a lot of time women don't comment on things, and I don't want you don't want to degrade them or belittle them and be like, silence is nothing but complicity. You don't want to come back and say that. Um, Maybe they don't know what to say. But as a woman, what's your views on men? Uh, do you think, I mean, or do you agree that men do have to be a lot of things and their voices aren't heard, or there's no empathy or sympathy for them in what they go through? I'm just curious to see what your viewpoints is on that.
I mean, I can say yes to all of that. Um, and it depends on the arena. Well, maybe in every arena. I think if you're talking about Black men, absolutely.
Mm,
I don't think in every man, other than a non-Black man, is that's an issue. But I think definitely in the Black culture, um, yeah, that's a big issue. Not being heard, not being felt worth, his self-worth. In all of those arenas, you're not heard in the manner in which you would like. When you have um, when everybody casts put you into one big fat category. So if someone gets robbed and it happens to be somebody of color, now all colored people are bad people. But it's not the way that the world has turned to now, right?
mm,
And so how
mm,
do you come out of that stigma? It has to be one man at a time. I believe. Truly, I think in anything that we do, in order to be heard, you have to speak, because no one can
right,
hear a silent person. No one can hear, even mute people have a manner of communication, right? It's sign language, right?
right,
Yeah.
right,
If they have to reach them on the phone, they have that the mechanism so that they have a translator. We have to use them if somebody comes into the office.
right.
I've had therapy with someone that is mute, and they had a translator came out, and after that I wanted to learn how to do translation. I wanted to learn how to do sign language, right? So um because I think it's an amazing, because you see so much in someone just when they don't have a voice. So I'm gonna give
Yeah.
you all something to think about. One time I gave someone that has personality disorder, and this is a very intricate diagnosis. So if you know anything about somebody with personality disorders, they could be brilliant people and very
Hmm.
cunning and sly people as well, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And this person, wonderful, wonderful young man. However, I gave him an assignment to do because there's nothing he couldn't answer. He knew more about therapy and the therapeutic process than I ever will know. He is very learned. He is book smart. He's just naturally intelligent. So he came into the office now. I had only, well, let me see, this is my fifth year, maybe my sixth year. So I'd only been doing it maybe 3 years at the time. And so here he comes. He's telling me about all the diagnoses he has and so on and so forth. And so all I could think to myself is, so what is it that I can do for you that you don't already know? Because technically you know all the therapies. You've been through several of the therapeutic process. What
Mhm.
can I offer you? Now, I'm certain I have something to offer, but since you've been through so much already, what can I do? And he stumped for a second, which I was a little surprised because he was very talkative when I first met him. So he said, just give me whatever you got, because nothing else has helped me. I'm curious to see what you have. Okay, so that gave me an assignment. I asked him I gave him an assignment, which he never did complete, but you all can think about why he didn't complete it. So I told
Mm.
him that he was in a wilderness, in somewhere of country, somewhere, and he had a young person with him, and he saw someone, two people, actually three people. It was a male, a female, and a child. Now he has a child with him. He cannot speak, and he doesn't know their language. How is he going to get back to civilization? And these are the only people that he has seen for days, and they can help him. And I'm telling him they can help him. How will he get back to civilization without
Mm.
words?
Mhm.
So he thought,
Mm.
he was excited about the whole, he was like, he's asking me first. So I was the person that I played a part of the role. And I was the person that was out in the, that I had everything that I needed. And here is this strange person that needs my help. So he said, well, wait, what can I say? Okay, wait, I have a couple of questions. I said, well, you need to ask me all the questions first before you start talking to me as the role that I'm in. And so he said, well, can I say, I said, you can say whatever you can say. She can't understand you. She don't know your language. But I'm saying to you is you can't use words. So it doesn't matter. You can't use them. So he's like, well, how am I going to get back to civilization? I said, you're brilliant. I'm certain you can figure it out. Right. So
Mm.
I said all that to say is that in our lifetime, sometimes we feel there's things that we really can't figure out. You know, one of the other guidelines I have in therapy is, you all know those three initials IDK, right? In
Yeah.
Yes.
texting, what does it say? What does it mean?
I
I
don't
don't
know.
know.
And of course you do. You are the expert on you. I am not.
Yeah.
I'm just meeting you, just like your significant other is, your bosses are, your family and friends are. They don't
Right.
know you. They know of you, but they don't know you, right? They're grown up with
Mm.
Hmm.
you. They know things about you. They know things about your ways, but they don't know what you
Right.
feel because you are with you all day, every day, all the time. So I
Right.
do not allow my responses as IDK. So as soon as they say that's, excuse me, did I just hear three letters or three words that identified that you didn't know yourself? So there's an answer for everything. There's always an answer, right? And we sometimes have to dig deep and think about it. Think about something that they're asking you about you that you haven't approached before. And I think, why do people say, I don't know? Tell me a couple of reasons why people say, I don't know, as a response to a question.
Well, while you were talking, I was thinking about what you asked him to do, and I thought of some things that I could do off the top of my head and try to, convince them that I needed help. I mean, one of
Exactly. So why do
I have
people say, I don't know?
yeah, just thinking about the situation. I'm like, okay, I can't talk and I don't know their language. Okay, hey, food. I need food. So this is a universal sign. Hey, put it into your mouth. Food,
Right,
water. Say I need something to drink. Water. And then if they not responding to you, they don't get it. I would follow them. Okay, they love me where I am. I would just follow them because I know they know where civilization is. I'll just follow them.
right. So why is it, Sean, that people use the words like, let's say if I
I
said,
don't know.
yeah, why would people use that as a response?
What? I don't know.
Yes.
Hmm. Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, they don't want to talk about it or they're afraid to discuss it.
Exactly. They don't want to
Yeah.
talk about it, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's a brush off. I don't know.
Cop out.
That's a cop
Cop
Right.
out,
out.
right?
Mm-hmm.
What's another reason?
Mm,
You hit one of the main
Or
ones.
they I would say they're not knowledgeable on whatever it is, maybe, I guess, or they're not confident
This is
in
about
what they
themselves,
know.
though. This is about
It's about
themselves.
them.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, not being comfortable sharing whatever it is. Like
Absolutely.
they know,
Absolutely. Of
they
course you
know
know.
exactly what it is,
Right.
but they
And
don't
that's
want to
when
tell you.
people use it all the time, especially in therapy. I don't know.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
they
So,
and Cheryl, they also worried about being judged.
well,
You know.
okay. So if you start off in saying this is a no judgment zone, that can't be a reason.
Ah, okay, okay,
Okay.
okay,
So
okay.
here it
Now
is.
we're
Here it
that
is. So,
dynamics. Okay,
right.
gotcha.
So the
Okay,
dynamics
gotcha.
is that generally in a forum, people might still respond. I don't know, because one, they
Hmm.
don't want to be vulnerable, right? It's hard to be vulnerable. Put yourself
Yeah.
out, put your stuff out there, right? And
Yeah.
it's fine. People, even if they don't verbally judge, you make the assumption. You know why? Because you judging them, judging you.
Hmm.
This person is
Yeah.
going to think, how you know what they're thinking? So somebody would say, I don't know what I'm feeling, right? I don't know what I'm feeling. And I said, well, how you know you're feeling anything if you don't know?
Mm,
Right? So there's no such thing
right.
as I don't know. So that was one of the things I wanted to leave with. And us, one, definitely making daily time for self care. It's really important that we get in tune with ourselves, even if it's 15 minutes. I mean, we spare time to go to the bathroom. We spare time to take a little eat. Even sometimes we don't eat properly. So one of the things, of course, I always tell everyone to please try to at least eat at least twice a day. You know, make sure you take a little walk if you can, even if you have to walk around the house late at night. Sometimes if I can't sleep, I walk the house. I walk
Mm,
inside the house. I walk in place, you know, and put on something silly on TV, something like that. So all of these
right.
things are necessitate to begin self-care. Eating well, getting some form of exercise. I know, Sean, that's near and dear to you.
Hmm.
I that's that's a requirement in all of my therapy sessions, that they begin with some type of schedule and to make time for themselves. And if they can't speak it, write it, right? Because sometimes it's hard to recall, especially if it's something hurtful inside of you, to write it. 2 sentences, I tell everybody to describe their feelings in no more than 5 bullets. They cannot be more than a sentence long, it cannot be a paragraph, generally little words, and it will help them to recall. So
Right.
I think when we make full circle of the original statement of this, we have to remember that every relationship that we have and everything that we do, we contribute to its success or its demise. And we just have to really take the responsibility to how much of our contribution went into the demise of anything, whether it's a professional or personal relationship. We have to take the responsibility for our contribution to the direction that it took.
Wow. That's powerful.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a good way to end this, Cheryl. That because you're leaving the people to with something to gut check themselves, because I know majority of people never think about their contribution of the success or the demise of the relationship. And my mom broke that down in pretty much layman's terms. She said, Sean, when something goes bad, it's both people's fault. It's not
Absolutely.
on one person. But we
Yeah.
Absolutely.
always blame one person depending on the severity of what was done wrong. It's their
Absolutely.
fault. We
Absolutely.
never think of it in that aspect. What did I contribute that was successful or demise of this relationship towards its end and forced it to go in that direction? And we never, if we sit back as men and women and think about that, we can begin to get some type of resolve. And then there may be a big chance of reconciliation,
Absolutely.
but we as people, my mom said, we don't think deep enough. We think, we only think at the surface. We don't go nowhere in the middle. We don't go deep to the root. We don't care. But in order, my grandmother's told me this. She said, Sean, in order to get to to figure out the problem, you always got to get to the root of it. And if he or she isn't important for you to get to the root of it, all that stuff that you said before, you really didn't really care or love that person as much as you thought you've cared or loved that person, because it's not important for you to get to the root of the problem. Once you get to the root, you can dig that thing up, cut it off, kill it. You can get all the answers at the root. That's where the answers are.
Mm-hmm.
And Cheryl, we don't take the time as men and women to do that with each other, because we just feel as if everybody's replaceable, everybody's expendable. I mean, that's just the world we live in.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And not to mention, we talked earlier, and I told you this. When it comes to who takes the blame for the relationship ending, especially in the court of public opinion with outsiders, it's usually the man. They're always going to demonize the man and say it's the man. Dude, look at Will Smith and Jada. When that whole thing came out, the first initial thing with August Alsina, a lot of people
Right.
blame Will. They didn't blame Jada. They said, well, he's not doing this, or he must not be doing that. Now Jada has kept talking and she keep revealing stuff. And everybody now is like, okay, Jada may be the problem. But it took her to reveal more stuff for them to be like, okay, Will seemed like he in shackles over there. We need to free Will.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But again, it's like I always said, the difference between two people is one has admitted to their faults and their mistakes and they're owning and taking responsibility, and the other one keeps theirs in secret.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we never get down to the bottom of it. So, well, Cheryl, thank you for coming on.
Thank
Cheryl,
you so much. This was great.
we're gonna have to do another
We have to do a
podcast with you on
sequel.
it.
A sequel.
Yeah, we got to do a sequel to this, because it
Mm-hmm.
was a pleasure. You touched on some things that made me. Wow, I got to think on those things, and I got
Yeah.
more things to work on, because, I say all the time, every day we're in school, and everybody has room for improvement. Everybody, even the people that think that they're so perfect. But that's self-reflection and self-awareness of oneself, when they can learn something every day and be like, you know what, I never thought about it, I never saw it from that perspective. It makes you, okay, you know what, I got to make some changes. I just got some things I need to work on, but it's positive reinforcement. So Cheryl, thank you so much for coming on to the show and giving us a woman's voice and a
Thank you,
woman's
sir.
perspective, because I really want more women on the show, because I'm trying to get people to understand we got to come to a place as men and women and realize the big man upstairs made men for women and women for men. It's not to divide. It's for us to come together. And the disconnect with men and women is that they're not taking the time or the effort to listen to each other. They're both speaking, but they're both speaking to respond, opposed to listening to comprehend and understand. And until we get to that place, the divorce rate is going to be higher. We're never going to stick together. We're never going to fight through anything. It's always going to be men versus women, and us having context when it comes to genitalia, all these different things that the world is brainwashed us to be against each other.
Yeah.
That's what society has done. And if you're not, I don't want to say intellectual enough, but if you don't think beyond the surface to see what society is doing,
Mm-hmm.
you are sabotaging everything that you love and you have in your present.
Yeah.
And you have to take the time to think outside the box. Get out the box, think outside of it.
Yeah.
That's pretty much my final thought. Brandon, you got any final thoughts?
Well, yeah, I could piggyback off that right there. We don't prioritize family today at all. That's one of the issues as well. Do you look at people from other cultures? Just look at our divorce rate. Look at people from other cultures. When you can't leave America and you go to other cultures, the divorce rate here is 50%, is like 50, 55%. You go to other cultures, go to other places, the divorce rate is low. But it's because they prioritize family. and they come from family. You look at the Black community as a whole, the 80% of the kids are born out of wedlock. So you're not seeing traditional families. You're not seeing husbands and wives. And how can you be that if you don't see it? That's what with boys. I had a conversation with a young lady earlier today, and we were talking about boys, and you're going to talk about how people don't care about men, but boys, and YouTube kind of flag you on saying it sometimes. So we'll just say self-deletion rate, taking themselves out. Boys are taking themselves out I think it's 3 times more than young girls are, especially the young boys. But men in general, the rate is high, and nobody's really talking about it because nobody really cares, And the no judgment, I love no judgment because one thing about a man, whatever your shortcomings are as a man, whatever flaws you have, it's tied to you everywhere you go. It's right here every single day. You wake up, whatever your limitations are, it's evident every waking moment. And we don't have a young man who have men in his life to teach him you can overcome these things. He feels despondent and he is going to give up. And that's why you have what you have. It's just one of the reasons why anyway, but that's my final thoughts.
All right. Well, thank you both, Brandon. You know it's always a pleasure, my brother.
It's a
And
pleasure,
Cheryl,
Brandon.
thanks for taking time out of your day to come on to the show. I'm definitely going to have you back. I
Thank you.
mean, girl, you was a blessing today, and I appreciate you.
Oh,
Appreciate you.
Cheryl, but
Yes,
Cheryl,
sir.
before you go, hey, you said you had them do bullet points and write down, I guess, how they feel or about themselves. That's what you said.
Yeah. Well, okay. So this, depending, like if somebody isn't eloquent as you two are on expressing how they feel about themselves, I have them, do a journal, not a daily thing, but
Yeah.
if it's episodic, if they're having a really bad situation, no more than 5 bullets to describe a situation that's happening. They can use words or sentences, but no more than 5. No less than
All right.
3. No more than 5.
See, I would have messed you up because on one of those bullet points, I would have put Dusty. You'd be like, Dusty, what is Dusty? I've never heard Dusty.
I actually have heard Dusty.
You heard that before?
Of course,
So
I've
you
heard
knew what it
Dusty.
was.
I'm old school. I know Dusty.
I feel dusty today, dog. I feel dusty.
Exactly. A pleasure, Brandon.
Oh, all right. But like I always in my segments, listen, people follow us, follow Brandon, all his social media outlets. Brandon, you want to tell
Yeah,
the people how to follow you?
I'm on everything. Twitch, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. I mean, just put in Brandon Lampley. You'll see me come up. Subscribe to my YouTube, like, share, and subscribe. I got all kind of content from sports to politics, religion. I'm gonna be doing more reaction videos, do more videos with Sean Taylor. So stay tuned.
Yeah, and you guys can follow me. You can send me a friend request to my personal Facebook page, Sean Taylor. My business, Tailor Made Training for You. My group, which I created in reference to my mother, for imperfect, non-judgmental people, 50 and over. Twitch, my YouTube channel, please like and subscribe to that. At Gwen's Boys Mindset, and of course, tune in to our podcast, my podcast, the No Judgment Zone, discussing topics with no judgments. So thank everybody for tuning in. Please put your comments. We'll comment on it. I'll like it. The feedback is the feedback is needed. Is necessary. So
Yeah.
comment, say what you feel. There's no judgments here. So like I always in every segment, I'll start judging people once I'm perfect, but since I'm in no danger of ever becoming perfect, you'll never have to worry about me judging you, period. All right, y'all.
I love my
Brandon, Cheryl, have a good,
brothers.
safe night.
You too.
All right now.
All
All
right.
right, man. God bless. I'll see you guys
Bye.
next time. Bye bye.